Welcome to the Holding Hope podcast. My name is Pam Orr, and I am the Executive Director for Fellowship Housing, a nonprofit that empowers single moms. The Holding Hope podcast is a space for courageous single moms to share their journeys. Through their stories, we will explore the life-changing power of hope. Each of these women inspires me, and I know they will inspire you as well. I'm so glad you've decided to listen. Welcome to the Holding Hope podcast, a space to share the stories of incredible single moms and their journey to finding hope. My name is Pam Orr, and I'm the Executive Director for Fellowship Housing, a nonprofit in the Chicagoland area that serves single moms. I will be your host today. I am so excited to introduce to you our guest. She is kind and gentle, but don't let that fool you. She is fierce and is a fighter. Her story is heartbreaking and yet beautiful. She is mom to Xander, and I'm so excited for you to hear her story. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a joy. So this picture back here of you and Xander, that was taken a while ago, wasn't it?
Yep, quite a while ago.
How old did you say Xander was when you took that picture?
I would say about 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And how old is Xander now?
He's 14.
14.
Yeah, freshman.
So how is it having a household with a teenage boy in it?
I would say actually he's not a typical teenage boy, in my opinion.
Okay.
He's pretty tidy, very self-disciplined. But he does love his video games and his phone. So I guess that's pretty typical.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you were doing something really well on the tidy part.
Trying. Yeah. Always trying.
Yeah. When we were preparing for today to share your story, we had a long conversation. And one of the things that you said to me as you were sharing some really incredibly painful parts of your story was you said that you wanted to do good with your pain. Before we dig into your story, would you just share a little bit about what you mean by doing good with your pain?
I think typically a lot of people that go through pain, including me at the beginning of my story, I just wanted to keep it all in and didn't want anybody to know my story. But as I've, become a Christian as well, it has helped me to just open up and see the value in sharing my story and how it can help others and how my pain has also given me empathy for others. And I don't want anybody else to go through any sort of pain that I have. So I guess that's kind of what drives me.
Wonderful. Because I would guess there's a cost to sharing your story.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that was my worry at first, is like judgment or someone feeling sorry for me or bad for me. But I have also seen the opposite of so many people just coming alongside of me and also meeting other single moms and other people in general that have hard stories as well. And what they have done with their own is very inspiring.
That's wonderful. And that really is the hope with this podcast, is that in sharing your story, and I will use that again, I'm sure, that we can do good with the painful parts of your story.
Yes,
for sure. Let's take our listeners back. And let's help them to get to know Rachel. Would you take us back to your family of origin and the family that you were born into? And just start telling me about the early years of your life.
My parents divorced before I could even remember. I think I was about 2 years old. I went back and forth every other weekend, like kind of a typical divorced family. I had an older sister. And just me at the time. So at least I had her. That was really nice to grow up with a sister. It kind of started getting hard, like with my mom was a very young mom, first of all. I think I shared that with you, that she was 16 when she had my older sister and 19 when she had me. So I think that stage of her life, she was still kind of living as if she, was that age and didn't have kids. So that was very hard for us just to not really feel like a priority in a lot of ways, and kind of a nuisance, I guess, in some ways.
Can you give more details as to what that looked like? You said she was living in such a way that was more like she was 19 and living without kids as opposed to being the mom to two.
Yeah. I think pretty much, at least on the weekend, she was going out a lot and going to bars and parties. And it was obvious there was drinking and smoking involved around us often. Yeah, I think any chance she got, someone would babysit us. She was, out trying to find some fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. There was a pivotal event that happened when you were pretty young. Can you share that? So your mom remarried?
Yes, my mom remarried. I think I was probably around sixth grade at the time when she got remarried. She married a younger guy. He was very nice in the beginning. After they got married, my mom got pregnant with his child, so my half-sister now. But my stepfather started to sexually abuse me. First it started out, the grooming, and I didn't really realize what was going on. But it went on for quite a while, and I just kind of started to rebel and didn't tell anyone, but started to rebel on my own. Just not coming home in time and things like that, and staying out with my friends and reacting negatively towards him too, just arguing with him. I would say I just told my mom I wanted to move to my dad's house, which he lived in Wisconsin at the time, like 3 hours away in the country, which was very different from where I was living in town with my mom. I didn't typically like to go visit him, but I just told her, I want to move. And she didn't really like that idea, but I just kept pushing and talked to my school counselor. And I set a day where I was just going to move and forget about all of this and get away from it. And my last day of school, before I was moving to Wisconsin, I wrote a letter to my school counselor telling him what had been going on. At that age, I didn't realize what the repercussions or what would happen, that he would have to tell the authorities, obviously. And when I had moved to my dad's, everything came out. The school contacted my new school, and my stepdad was picked up by the police, from what I'm aware of. My mom was pregnant at the time, so obviously a lot for her to go through as well and understand. My dad didn't really talk to me much about it. He's just a man that doesn't really, I guess, know how to talk about emotions very well. And I did have to go to counseling here and there, but never really opened up, didn't really know how, so it was a very hard time. And I was an only child then. After I moved to my dad's, I was alone, and they worked a lot on the farm and also at their, 9-to-5 jobs. So very lonely, I would say. And my mom, as a result, she did not believe me that any of this took place. So that was obviously even harder, that my own mother didn't believe me. So I didn't speak to her for quite a while. And when she did call me, she would tell me that I was lying and to tell everybody that I was lying. She wanted me to tell everybody that was a lie as well. And I was in 7th grade at the time. I don't know if I mentioned that, but when this happened, I was in 7th grade. So junior high too, kind of a hard time.
To navigate all of that going on, to be separated from your sister and your mom, and then to be by yourself and on a farm.
In a really small town as well. Like, I think there was about 40 kids in my grades, like K through 12th grade school. So big changes. And difficult, I would assume, to move into a small community in 7th grade where probably relationships are already formed. Oh, yeah. So to make friends in that situation would have been hard. Yeah, very true. And just to hide all this, that, everything's okay on the outside, but on the inside, there's a lot going on. I didn't even know how to do anything with it, I guess.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So what about your sister now? So your sister stayed back with your mom?
Yes.
Were you able to maintain a relationship with her?
No, I think she kind of took the side of my mom, but she's 2 years older than me. But I think she just took the side of my mom. Obviously, she was young too. Probably didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Or what was going on and how to process it herself, I'm assuming. Yeah, but it was really hard since we grew up, very close together. And then I didn't see her for at least a year, I believe, after I moved. And it was very strained, I would say, too. And when I did see my mom, it was like had to be with someone. I couldn't be alone with her.
And that was court required?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So you're living in Wisconsin. You're with your dad and your stepmom. What kind of support did you receive from them? Or was it pretty much just you didn't talk about it? What did that look like?
I think it's pretty much don't talk about it. I think the first day that they found out, there was a little conversation about what happened in general. I knew that they did believe me, which was, a big thing. I guess that was supportive enough. I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
And with the counseling, I think we had to drive a few hours just to take me to counseling, like all the way in Rockford. So I didn't go very often. When I did, I didn't really open up. But at home, I didn't get much support. They were very focused on their work and what needed to be done on the farm above all else,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So again, kind of lost.
Yeah.
In that. Tell me what your high school years, like keep moving us through the next few years of your life. What did high school look like? Did you stay in Wisconsin?
I stayed in Wisconsin for quite a few years. I would say I did meet some great friends, some supportive friends. I really enjoyed the small town. My parents weren't really involved, but I did get into sports, and that really helped my grades, and I did well at school. And I think it was a decent, small town life, I guess, as good as it could be. My parents did drink quite a bit and those things as well. So I guess it wasn't the most healthy, but it was better than my mom's, He was a lot more strict, though. That's the thing I didn't really like, is going from my mom's that, we could do anything really, and went to my dad's and he was very strict and didn't say a lot of words, but
there were rules.
Yeah, a lot of rules.
Gotcha.
But then my older sister actually moved in with us at my dad's house. I would say I was a freshman and she was a junior. And she kind of moved away because similar things started happening to her with my stepdad as well. So, and she had some problem with friends and things like that. She just wanted to get out. So she moved, I think only for 1 year she came, but it was nice to have a bond with her again, have a sister again. We shared a room, which was fun. But she did get me into a lot of trouble. She had the influence, of living with my mom a little longer. So, she pushed me towards, rebelling more, and that side of me started coming out, unfortunately. So, which I guess teenage years can bring that, but yeah. And then my mom did end up starting to believe me after it happened to my sister as well. So she begged for me to come home. So my junior year of high school, I moved back home.
What was that like emotionally, psychologically for you? Not only to have her believe you, but to think about moving back home. And where was your stepdad in all of this?
I would say I didn't have a lot of emotions. I think I learned to really block my emotions by then. And I was excited to not have as many rules, if I'm honest. So I was like, yeah, I'll move back. I know I can have fun. So, and I wanted to be by my sister as well. And I had missed my mom. And my mom had my younger sister. She was only a few years old, and I had missed out on the beginning of her life and having a baby sister and all that. So I had really longed to be by her. I think that was the big thing. So I forgot the rest of your question.
Was your stepdad in the picture when you moved home?
I would say my mom, I think she still wanted him in her life. So he didn't live there because it was court ordered. He did not live in the home anymore. But she would allow things that probably weren't okay. She would let him come work in the garage or be there when we weren't there. And it was always this feeling of like, oh, is he going to be there? And kind of worried, I would say. Not knowing where and when he would be places, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I did have, of course, a big sweet spot for my younger sister that I felt guilty of her not having a dad in her life. That might seem silly, but
you felt some responsibility.
Yeah, that I just didn't want her to grow up without a mom and a dad. Because my mom and dad weren't together and all that. So I didn't push too hard with the court to keep him in jail or do anything more drastic because of her. Yeah.
Was there ever any further abuse by your stepdad toward you?
No, there wasn't. No, not towards me. But my mom did end up letting him back in her life. She continues to be with him today, which is obviously a very hard thing. I've had to, if I want to be part of the family and do things together, I've had to welcome him, which has been hard. Through my, growing as a Christian, I have really tried to forgive and try to understand that more and let go and forgive. And I feel like I've done as good as I can with that. And but it's difficult, obviously, to have a person that's abused you to continue to be in your life, and you have to see them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there ever any acknowledgement on his part of the wrong that he did to you and your sister? Did you have any conversations with him acknowledging?
Very vague, I would say. He has apologized, but also acts like nothing happened and sweep it under the rug at the same time. But there has been slight apologies, and my mom has said that through his counseling that he had to do, that she did feel like he was sorry, and the things he had written, during his counseling, that he was very sorry for everything.
How was that to receive that? I think you said very generic or general apology.
I think in my family, it's very much been like sweep it under the rug, keep going with your life. And I've kind of tried to do that, because I thought that was right.
That's right.
Okay, well, I just got to forgive him and keep going. And I think it's been, I'm sure it's common with any trauma that it kind of, you can get triggered at some point. There's been times where we've spent time with him and it's fine, but I think a lot of that numbing comes back of, I want to enjoy my sisters and my mom, and the fun that they're doing is family vacations and things like that, and probably a lot of numbing, I would say. Especially like recently, I think I shared with you that I haven't been in a relationship with him anymore. This is recent. Because I think he's displaying behaviors that I can no longer forgive him for, not towards me, but my older sister has told me that he's done and said inappropriate things I think are just crossing the line, especially given our, our past, that, and it's in front of my mom as well. And I don't even know how to explain it. She just accepts that and she wants to be with him. And it's really hard to feel like you're chosen, or that person's chosen over us.
I can imagine.
So, yeah. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything that Rachel today would say to younger Rachel to either help her cope, or that you would have done differently, knowing what you know now?
I think definitely with the counseling, I would have opened up more so I could have got more help. At that point, I didn't know how, and I probably didn't trust anybody maybe too. So I think, the counseling and healing that I've done now, and I also wasn't a Christian, at that time. And I think that's really helped me heal as well.
Good. Thank you. I'd love to hear how you met Xander's dad. Can you share that story with us?
Xander's dad, it's kind of complicated to explain. Xander's dad's sister is friends with my mom.
Okay.
So I would see his father growing up just sporadically here and there. How we got more connected was I had to be maybe 19. I was trying out for a cheerleading event, and I had to get some headshots done, and he's a photographer. So my mom suggested that I reach out to him and that he's a good photographer. So that's how we got connected. He took some photos, and we had a lot of fun with that. He seemed very confident and attractive, and that he had a good life going for him, I guess. So that's what kind of got everything started.
Now, he's significantly older than you. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
So you were 19 at the time. How old was he?
You're making me do math.
Roughly.
I think he was about 36.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So quite a lot older. And that wasn't the first older man I have had dated. So I think I just had a just negative pattern of, what I was looking for, and maybe from trauma, or I'm trying to, I've gone through kind of that understanding, trying to understand all that.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that's part of it.
How did the relationship with him develop? You did the photo shoot.
Yeah, he did the photo shoot. And then he asked me to do another photo shoot just for an event he was doing. And I had talked to my mom and tried to get advice, which, maybe wasn't the best idea, but I didn't have a lot of options, I guess. But I asked her, is this a good idea to do this for him? And she, oh, yeah, that's great. He's a great guy. All the stuff that she knew about him, I guess. So I went along and did it. It was a lot of fun. He was very charismatic and very kind. And yeah, after that, I was kind of in a hard place of where I was living at the time. And I was no longer able to live there anymore. So I had talked to him, just regular conversation, just talking about life, I guess. And we started talking about where I'm living. And I said, I'm trying to find a new place. And he actually had 2 kids at the time, and he was recently divorced. And he said, well, I got a place at my house, and you can help take care of the kids, and you can pay me just not a lot of rent, just a little bit of rent, and we could help each other out, kind of thing. I said, okay, well, let me think about it. I talked to my mom again. Great idea. And I kind of was trying to take my time because I wasn't sure if this was the right thing to do. I didn't know him super well myself, and he had 2 kids. But he did have a really nice house too. It was kind of far away too. But in talking to him, he really told me, this is what you're going to do. I already got a bed for you, and it's already done. You can come. Which at the time, I didn't know how to take that. That's really, really nice. I needed a place, and I was in a desperate situation. And so I decided to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how did that go?
Not good for very long, I would say. Definitely started a lot of flirting, both of us, I would say. Helped with the kids. It was kind of like a hidden kind of relationship, and not healthy, obviously. And I would hear him talk to his ex-wife and kind of a negative way, and talk about how horrible she was. And I really didn't know how to feel, but I was in a desperate situation too. And he offered to help me with school after that. And my parents didn't help me with school. I didn't know what to do with college. Neither of my parents went to college. So I kind of looked up to him as a good support system that I didn't have before, someone that's talking to me and walking me through how to do this college stuff. And, but shortly, I don't even know how, I think I lived there probably less than 6 months and I was pregnant. So it was a very quick relationship. Kind of scary.
Very scary. How did that change your relationship, or did it change your relationship? How did he feel about the pregnancy? And
he felt very negative about the pregnancy. I took a pregnancy test. Obviously, it was positive. And right away, immediately, he told me I should get an abortion and told me when and where to go to get it done. And I was devastated. I never thought about if I wanted to be a parent or not at that age. You know, I was 20 years old at that time. Never thought about if I wanted a family or not. And I said no, I didn't want one. So then the next day, I went to work. And when I got back home, he was not there. He left me a note and said, if you're not going to get this abortion, you need to leave and get out of here. You can no longer live here. So obviously I was very upset. Didn't know what to do or where I was going to go. You know, I was lucky I had a place there, so I had no idea where I was going to go. I didn't have a great paying job at the time. I was trying to go to school. And I left. It was November, cold. And he said, you know, I don't care if you have to live in your car. It's reality.
where did you find the strength to make that decision?
That's a hard question. I don't know, because I feel like I didn't have much strength from anyone. You know, growing up, it was all me just trying to figure things out on my own. I didn't have my mom to run to because my stepdad was living there at the time. I wasn't going to run back home. My dad still lived in Wisconsin, quite far away, and he definitely wouldn't like the fact that I was pregnant, so I didn't want to do that right away. I think just that I had a living thing inside of me. Like, I knew he had a heartbeat already, and I was like, there's no way I could have an abortion knowing there's a living thing I need to take care of. I don't know if it's just motherly instinct kicked in that early, or I don't know where the strength came from. I wasn't a Christian at the time either, so I couldn't claim it was from God either.
So where did you go?
I stayed at some friends' houses at first, just a night here, a night there, as I was trying to look for apartments. My financial state was not in a place where I could look for apartments, but I didn't know what else to do. I ended up finding a privately owned apartment and got very lucky and kind of wiggled my way in there, kind of maybe not telling the full truth of my financial state, sadly, but I just knew I had to protect this baby that was coming, and I needed to give him some kind of home and safety. And my cousin ended up moving in with me too to help me, so I was very lucky for that as well. So,
what were you doing for income at that time?
I was a personal trainer, but work commission basically. And I was pregnant, so that was really hard to be a personal trainer and pregnant. But I kept doing that as long as I could.
Rachel, I want to pause a minute and just say, as you know, we've listened to your story up to this point. There is a strength in you that is palpable, like we can see it. But I'm guessing at the time it didn't feel like strength. Can you just take us into what was going on inside of you in this season of uncertainty, with being newly pregnant and no place to live? What was going on inside of you internally?
I think really it was that numbness again. I would say, I have to numb myself and just power through this and figure it out. No one else is going to figure it out for me. And I don't want to complain, and I didn't feel like I could reach out for help either. I think just the way I grew up, you got yourself into this, you got to figure your way out. So I think that's it, I guess.
You did it.
Yeah.
Right. So bring us from being in this apartment, your cousin moved in with you, to when Xander was born. What was Xander born and you were at that apartment when he was born? What was it like being a single mom? What was it like bringing him home and doing it solo?
I did stay in the apartment the whole pregnancy. It was really hard to be on my own, obviously, especially as I got bigger and had to do everything on my own. And my family did help me, obviously, to get the baby shower and all those things for him. I was lucky enough to have a room, and I was really excited to get that room all cute for him. And I got really excited. I was really excited to be a mom, and I actually had a really good pregnancy overall, besides, being alone and stressed. I enjoyed it. I still worked at the gym and worked out as well, tried to stay fit and eat well. And I really read up on a lot of the books and everything I could do to be the best mom that I could possibly be at that age and circumstance. I think my cousin, he kind of ignored that I was pregnant. I think he was around the same age as me. He was just like, oh yeah, we'll share a space, but don't tell me anything about that. But having him, it was a traumatic experience at the hospital. That part wasn't that great. But
and you were by yourself at the hospital?
My mom came.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom came in, and my grandma had some family there.
Okay.
But yeah, Xander's dad didn't come. I invited him to come, and he didn't want to be involved. So obviously that was kind of devastating, and figuring out he didn't even know if he was a boy or a girl, what his name was, anything. So that part was devastating, but I think I just, again, tried to numb and ignore that part, and I got to figure this out and keep going and be the best that I can be for him. But I was super excited.
I am so amazed and intrigued by the fact that you had this drive to be a good mom, to learn all you could, to care and to sacrifice for this child. And you had no model of which to follow.
Yeah. I think I just try to do the opposite. That was my goal, still my goal, just do the opposite. Just be the best mom. Don't, I kind of was overprotective, I think, in response to the way I grew up. I would say I didn't want people to hold him. I didn't want him to eat certain things. I was kind of a little overprotective. Still maybe am some.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about Xander now. What's he like? You told us a little bit at the beginning. He's not your typical teenage boy.
Yeah. I would say he's very introverted, quiet. His passion right now is rock climbing. He got into that over the past few years, which is really cool to see. Especially he's really tall. He's 5'11". So he's got the lean, long body to be climbing. So he's very good. It's very fun to see him do that. He's very big on his health, which I guess maybe he gets that from me too. I've kind of always looked after my health and worked out and ate well and cooked with him. So he has that drive too to work out and eat well. He's very funny, witty. If you get to know him, he's better at one-on-one, but he's very funny. Your face has lit up as you've started talking about Xander. Yeah. Obviously the time has gone by so fast looking at that picture.
Absolutely. We should have brought up a picture of him today. That would have been fun to show as well.
Those times when they're little, the days go by so slow and they're so hard, but you just wish you could go back to those days now.
Absolutely.
They go by way too fast. You don't get to enjoy them, especially as a single mom. You're working and taking care of them, and it's a lot.
Managing it all on your own. Was there ever a point at which Xander Xander's dad became involved in Xander's life?
He did, actually. Right after he came home from the hospital, he did. He must have found out from the hospital website that he was born, and he contacted me through mail. and wanted to come see him and wanted a DNA test and all this stuff. So I did welcome him in, a little reluctantly, but I just wanted the best for Xander. And he, obviously it's his child, and he wanted to see him every other weekend. We went through court a few times, all that fun, stressful stuff. But he was seeing him every other week. And then he ended up moving to Florida. When Xander was in kindergarten, he moved to Florida. So that was kind of a traumatic time. I felt kind of upset about that he was just going to leave him. And he hasn't come back as much as he's, originally thought he would. And he goes there in the summer for a few weeks. He calls him every once in a while, but they don't have a strong relationship, sadly, but they have a relationship. Yeah.
Wow.
And he has the the older brothers that he had previously, and they get along pretty well and they see each other. So it is great for him to have some siblings.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So this time from, when Xander was little, an infant, to he's 14 now, what did that look like? I think a lot of our listeners are single parents, and there's some commonalities I would assume that you share with them that are listening. What did those years look like? What did parenting solo look like, and where did support come from?
I would say I didn't have a lot of support, really. When Xander was 5 months old, I found out about fellowship housing. So that was, probably the most support we had. We moved in, met a few other single moms, which was really nice to have that. And I had a family advocate that I could talk to about problems, and she went to court with me, which was huge because, I wouldn't have had anybody else to go with me. So I think that was a huge thing for me. After that, I had formed some friendships within fellowship housing that had really helped, be with other moms that could understand, and also the financial aspect of not being able to go out and buy stuff and do stuff. That's always hard, especially when you have a child young and you have friends that still are going out and doing fun things that you wish you could do or that you're missing out on, so yeah, I think that was good to have support of people that understand or in similar situations. And
some of those relationships are still intact today. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Some really good friends that you've made.
Yeah, made some good friends and made some more too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. If you could give advice to single moms that are listening, and I think I would expand that to not just single moms, but maybe someone who's experiencing some of the trauma and maybe in that situation now, what kind of advice would you give to them, knowing what you know now?
The trauma of what
you went through with your stepdad, and
I would say now that I've really grown in my Christian life, I would say I've really leaned on God for healing and understanding as well. And I feel like God has a purpose through our pain. And even though that's really hard to understand, especially when you're in it, there is beauty in the end. And sometimes there might be more pain after that, but God has a purpose for those things and how he's going to use you to help others or to be there for your child, to encourage others with your wisdom that you've learned through all those things. I think there's definitely a purpose in the pain. And that's kind of what I have to lean on in those hard times, is to remember to look up, not around sometimes, is to focus on the important thing and what is God doing in this right now. But yeah, that's hard. It's hard, especially when you're in it.
As a listener, and I'm sitting here wondering this too, your faith has become such an important part of your story. And just listening to you tell your story again, there's a kindness and a gentleness that just permeates from you as you talk. But I'm wondering, and I'm guessing some of my listeners are wondering, was there ever a time when you just got mad?
Oh, yeah, a lot. Oh, yeah. There was times where I cried about finances, cried about how his dad was treating me or us, whether it was financially or just the way he treated us in general. Oh, yeah, I got mad, upset, all the emotions, all of them. And again, God created those emotions. I used to hold them in, though. I used to not cry or want to show emotion at all. And I think that was my upbringing as well as just to hold it in and tough it out. But I've learned that, you need to find time to let that out and to have friends and people that you can share those things with and not hold them in just by yourself. You could have to share your burdens with others. And then that makes them open to be able to share theirs with you.
Absolutely. You talked a lot about just numbing through the years.
Yeah.
And it sounds like through discovering your faith, there was a learning of letting that numbing go and embracing those feelings that had to be overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think I'm still really learning that. It's kind of, if you've done that for so many years, it's hard to change. But I see the value of changing and also showing each other your emotions. That's hard as well, to show you're not weak if you're crying or that you need help. That's not weakness. Some people love to help others. And I think that was another thing. I was afraid to ask for help from others. I saw that as a weakness, I guess, for some reason. And, or that I owed them something, if I accepted their help.
Yeah.
But to meet genuine people that do genuinely want to help and don't want anything in return, and just like me now, I love to help others and I don't want anything in return. I know how it feels to get helped, and I love to show others the same.
That's beautiful. One thing you said to me, maybe we'll close with this. When we talked before, you said there's such wisdom in our stories. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
I would say, we all have stories, all of us. Might not be as traumatic or different than each other, but we all can help each other. We can all be there for each other. And if you keep that in, you're not able to help or do anything at all if you hold that in. But if you share your story with others, I think that just welcomes love, wisdom, hope, so many other words I could say. I think it's, we all learn different things throughout our journey. And if we don't share them, what's that going to get us? Nothing,
right.
Nothing. And we need to show how to be like Christ. And how are you going to do that when you just keep it in?
That's profound. Rachel, I just want to thank you for having the courage to share your story, to share the hard pieces, to share the joys that you've had as well, and to just remind us of the wisdom that we all have when we look back at our stories and are willing to share them with others. So thank you so much for coming on today and joining us.
Thank you, Pam. I enjoyed it.
Great. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Holding Hope podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, would you consider joining our community of followers that finds joy in elevating the stories of single moms? You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. If you know someone who would benefit from this community and this conversation, would you please share it? And finally, if you'd like to learn more about fellowship housing, you can find us at fhcmoms.org on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Again, thank you for joining us today.